You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Strain After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Strain After Show.
That's right, guys. We're coming back to you. The Strain here at AfterBuzz TV. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. Joining me on tonight's panel,
Jacque Borowski.
Jacque Borowski's here with us. Matt Lieberman and Stephen Lemieux are both out. We have sacrificed them to the master to give us another week alive and not with a giant tongue appendage coming out of our mouths. I say it was worth it.
It was worth it.
Who cares about moral fiber? But thank you guys. With this music behind me, we usually open to a jokey music. This is now everything I say sounds really creepy.
It sounds very serious. I feel like now that Steve and Matt are gone, that we're being very serious.
We're going to be deadly serious about this episode, you guys. No, we're going to have fun. Just as if they were here, but they're not. But we'll be excited when they come back.
Two of us.
We can make it. All right. But they'll be back next week, and we'll get their reactions to everything, because this was a busy episode.
It was
a lot
really
of characters.
Busy. Yes.
Going through, and like everyone's sort of getting ready because the plague is about to. It feels like the time bomb's about to go off.
Yes. Definitely.
Because we get Setrakian and Eph on their little mission. Their two-man mission, just like us.
Yes.
We're on a two-man mission to save the world.
True.
Just like we're on a two-person mission to save this podcast. Sure. But Setrakian's like, he's cooking. He cooks some breakfast for Eph.
I really love the juxtaposition of Setrakian with like cute old man versus Setrakian as like badass vampire hunter.
It's really funny.
And so he's wearing his vampire hunting Setrakian outfit with his gloves, because I think I'm not sure if they mentioned this on the show, but his hands were like mangled in a vampire attack. So he wears these like gloves.
I did notice that he was like eating his food like with his gloves on, and those are like wool gloves.
Yeah.
If you've ever had to eat with those kind of gloves on, the little hairs get in your face.
Yeah,
it's not very
really
good.
No, and he's inside, and so. But I was like, look, he's making eggs for Eph.
I just kind of figured he's like an old man. You know, his hands get cold. But yeah, he cooks some breakfast while going over intense vampire lore, which now we finally get like the name, or at least what the show is going to call them, Strigoi.
Yes, Strigoi.
Which he's like, is that something? Does that mean vampire in another language? Yeah, Romanian. Because I don't think Setrakian wants to refer to them as vampires.
I don't think so, because probably because two things I'm thinking. One, he probably learned the term Strigoi in his own language when he was discovering what they were. And then the other thing is, it sounds kind of vampire, sounds kind of hokey, which I think Eph was making that point where she's like, vampire? Like, really?
He doesn't want people out there thinking like, oh, these are going to sparkle. Right. It's all good. Don't worry about it, you guys. No, these are dangerous Strigoi.
Yes.
You got to run from Strigoi.
You have to. They're not sexy. They're just not.
They're not stringy goys. They're Strigoi. It's just a Jewish term that ends in goy, and I'm just like, that's... See, more credence to my Jewish theory.
Your Jewish theory came out in full force here, and I was so happy for you, because I was like, look, it's all coming true. Ichor's is there in the flashbacks, and his friends being eaten next to him in the concentration camp.
I mean, I got flashes when we go back into the past, like, of Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter. If anybody's read that book, it's a similar thing where they... round up all these people under the guise of either slavery or In this case, just getting rid of exterminating the Jews, but in order to basically just create a farm for blood.
Yeah.
Just gets all these people where no one's questioning where they're going.
I think it's also interesting how his Bubba? His grandma?
His booby.
His booby. I'm sorry, I'm not Jewish, but I'm trying. I'm trying here. His booby, like, she said that that they were headed towards, I'm trying to find the exact quote. She says, "Evil lurks in the world, and I fear we are soon to meet it." And it's interesting to me because there's this double meaning, because we know that they're headed to a concentration camp, and we know that the people there are probably going to kill them or work them to death, and that makes them evil. But there's another level, and you wonder if she actually just knows that there are vampires there too, because she was the one who's told him the stories.
I think she must have experienced something with the master or one of his people. She must have had a run-in with them at some point in her life, where she knows, like, that this is the biggest evil out there in the world.
Yes.
Maybe she saw a Nazi vampire person at some point, which is just like the ultimate evil thing in the world.
Yes, exactly.
It's like no black and white about it. Nazi vampire, it's a bad guy.
It's kind of similar. I don't know if you've read Miss Peregrine's School for Peculiar Children.
I have not.
But
I have not.
It sounds so, like, when I first read it, I was like, this is going to be so goofy. But it's actually interesting because it's the same kind of concept where the kid, he thinks his dad is just making up stories, and it's like maybe Setrakian thought his booby was making up these stories, but in reality, it's like there was a real literal monster behind them.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is she saw this. Not maybe she just saw something simple, but she knows what's behind the evil.
Yes,
it's not political theater and drama. No, there's a real evil out there.
Yes,
it's not a distraction. There's evil.
Right.
And so now they're being they're shipped out in essentially crates on the train to
Poland, and it's near the end of the war,
yeah,
which
it's
I
very
found
late.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it all happened at different times. They could have been getting moved from sort of like one of a ghetto to,
right,
because this wasn't necessarily a concentration camp. It was a work camp.
It was a work camp.
Which I assumed they were going to a concentration camp where they'd just be like waiting and then reveal the gas chambers aren't actually gas chambers. They're vampire rooms.
I'm not entirely sure that they were separating women and children from men, and I'm wondering if that means that his grandmother is going to die, because a lot of the times they felt like, okay, women and children, you're not going to be able to work like these men are going to be able to work.
I thought it was interesting when they first arrived that the speech from Eichhorst, who's there, it looks exactly the same. Hard to say if this is pre or post turn, though.
That is, I agree.
Because if he gets turned soon, then he would be locked into that face. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's been around before that.
And we know he's putting the face on, so it's like whatever it is, we don't know if this is like he's turned and he's just started the process of putting on his old face, or if this is his pre-turned. Yeah. But we do know that he is more of a sentient being than the other, like Bolivar, for example.
Absolutely. I just thought, what I thought was interesting in his speech is that he says, like, after the war, we'll decide your merit and like assign you properly based on, like, obviously there's like BS to that.
Right.
But it's not something you expect from like a Nazi camp speech. Like usually it's just like you will work or you will die. This was like almost like he was trying to give them hope.
I think a lot of times though, I mean, I lived in Germany when I was little, and when you go to a concentration camp and you kind of read the history there, a lot of the times, you know, you're not going to tell a bunch of people that your intent is to mass murder them, because then they will freak out and maybe revolt.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's not too far from the truth, that the idea would be to be like, okay, well, we'll give you this glimmer of hope that if you work hard enough, you'll get somewhere, because the idea is we just want to get you to do what we want you to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just thought I found it interesting coming out of Eichhorst.
Yes,
that it's like semi-hopeful sounding speech out of Eichhorst the Nazi. But for young Abe, we'll just talk about the 1944.
And we're gonna have I thought he did a great job, and we're gonna have him on our show.
Yeah, so guys, tune in next week.
He's the week after next. Next week is Matt.
Next week, okay.
And then
either way, tune in next week.
Just keep tuning in. You'll hear people.
Yeah. But so he's asleep one day, and he gets woken up, and we see the Master just like flying by, like picking out a victim.
Great effects too. I love the flying, like creepy effects. It reminds me a little bit of the Dementors in Harry Potter, which is not a bad thing because they're really scary.
Yeah. What's that flying black cloak?
Right.
Just like of death.
Right. And you can see his like claw hands, like he's got the Nosferatu claw hands. And that tongue, now that we've seen it more than once, is so creepy.
Now that they're not holding back at all, it's not like you get a flash and then
ever.
It's just like, hey, here's a close-up. We're going to sit on it.
Yes.
But it's really effective because having to sit on it, having to, like, as he sees it, it's just like, it's not just happening for a heartbeat.
Right.
It's, no pun intended. He's really just, it's lingering there. And that's more frightening.
Yes.
To me, is that, like, idea that this is not a slow process. This is not instantaneous.
No. And he's like, it's like they're like a leech. It's like sucked onto you and you can't get it off.
Especially when, and then when he's finished, he just snaps the neck.
Oh gosh!
Oof. And you can hear it. You can hear the cracking.
Yes. And I thought I liked the touch of him having a Romanian accent as young Setrakian.
Yeah, he's got a lot of nationalities going on in there.
Yes.
Jewish, Romanian, Armenian. So it's not a common combination. But he tells his friend, he's like, because they are put into a carpentry workshop.
And his friend stepped up and said, okay, we're carpenters. And he was like, well, we really haven't done it that long, but it's like, this is how we're going to survive.
Yeah.
So he
kind of figure it out as we go. He
kind of owes his life to his friend. And then it's like, his friend dies in front of him, which is like the ultimate, like, you know, as a hero, when you do a hero's journey kind of story, you have to have that turning point where the hero's like, oh crap, something big just happened to me to motivate me.
Yeah, and we get that from current day Setrakian when he talks about, I've seen what happens when people sit idle.
Yeah, and he says that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. What does he say? Inaction is the greatest evil.
Yes.
Which is it's a very true
statement.
Yeah.
And I think that's a statement that one could say. I love these tie-ins to Nazi Germany because it is a statement you can say about what happened there in Nazi Germany, because there's no way people didn't know what was happening by 1944 when you're busing people out of towns. You know by now those people are not coming back.
Yeah. Well, just like his mom didn't want to arrive. She was uncomfortable on the train. She's like, I'd rather be uncomfortable on this train than at the place we're going to, because she knows she knows what's coming.
Yeah.
And I think they all sense it. Nobody gets loaded into a train like that and expects something good to happen on the other side. But so, in the modern day, we have Abe and Eph. Abe and Eph going on adventures.
Not Eph and Nora, Abe and Eph.
Because Nora pieced out to go hang out with her mom who has dementia, whatever. But F's trying to get her on the phone to check if she's safe. The phone system's still wonky from the hack last week.
What I don't understand is how some people can get on the phone and some people can't.
I think it's that the phone systems are not back to 100% yet.
Or some people just have AT&T and some people have Verizon, and it's like...
Sprint got their network up quick. All the unlimited calling really stressed out the system. No, but I think what it is that the system... Because there's only so many calls that the system can handle at one time. So I think when it gets to a certain level, it's not up to 100%. Right. So not everybody can make calls. So you have to kind of like gamble and keep trying to get through. It's like the olden days when there were literally just a number of lines in front of the operator.
Yes.
And they're like, sorry, all lines are busy. You're going to have to try back later. But so they go out and basically F's like totally on board. He's like, we're going to solve this. I need your help you know what's going on. I clearly don't. And so they go to track down
to film him for proof.
To film. They go because they go to the next stop is Ansel, and what they find is not very pleasant.
Ansel's not looking so good these days.
Well, neither, unfortunately, is his wife.
No, and his. I thought it was sad that they didn't cut her down, but then I'm like, well, maybe they didn't do that because of the whole, like, evidence thing, but then they burned down the shed, so they could have just cut her down if they were already going to be doing damage kind of things.
I think it was basically Setrakian's just like, we don't have to deal with that.
Right.
That's not what we're here for.
Right.
Why would we waste our time and energy? Somebody else will find it and deal with that.
I do appreciate, though, that they made sure in the note to say where the children were, because I think even though we've had the little, as Matt calls her, the foie girl, even though we had her turn into a vampire, I still think that's like a sensitive subject. So you want to remind the people, okay, he hasn't eaten his kids. Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Or his kids weren't, like, murdered by the wife or something.
We're not. This show's got is some pretty dark turns,
yes.
but we're not at child murder yet.
Right, exactly. So I like that. I was like, that's a nice reminder that the children are safe. There were 2 reminders in this episode that children should be safe, and I appreciated that.
Yeah. But they go out back to the shed, and F's got his new weapon. That is the coolest weapon.
Yes.
A nail gun that shoots silver nails that he's modified to have, like, a Tommy gun chamber.
Yes. And you know that with all of his time, like, sitting there stewing, waiting for these things, Setrakian is in his, like, pawn shop building things out of the things he gets in the pawn shop.
Somebody brings in a nail gun one day, and he's like, oh, I've got an idea. Now I need silver. Let all out there know. Bring me silver.
I'm waiting for, like, advanced crossbows and all kinds of other crazy, bizarre stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna have to think about this, and then when we come back to predictions later, I'm gonna have some wild new gun that I'm gonna predict, because he's got to have something else crazy. In his stores. But so they go in there and he gets the video.
Yes.
Really easy. It's convenient that they happen to find one that's chained up so that they can, like, take a step back and he's like, okay, let me get a close up and I'm gonna adjust focus and aperture.
I do appreciate, though, that you're seeing in the shot where they go up to the shed. They don't open it all the way, and they go in kind of tentatively, not knowing what they're going to find, which I appreciated, because I'm like, this is, even though this is a kind of like a supernatural horror thriller, you still have this element of reality where if you were going up to a shed and you didn't know exactly what you were going to find, you wouldn't be like, wide open, here I am.
People are acting intelligently around dangerous things.
Yes. Well, the wife, not so much, but maybe that's why she had a hard ending.
Yeah.
But they were acting intelligently. I was like, that is good. Good on you. Just like way back in the beginning when the people at the airport were acting intelligently under the crisis, I was like, that would not happen in real life, but I am glad that they're acting intelligently.
Well, it's great that we get, because Setrakian's been through this so many times.
Right.
Like before, he knows you got to stun him so you can get close enough to chop the head off easily.
Yes.
You don't want to have a fight where you're, like, struggling and dodging when you go in for the kill. You stun him with the nails, and then you go on to the next part.
I was surprised that the neighbor was still alive, though, due to the amount of, like, blood and eating and things that were happening.
It was, like, spilling out
of the door. I was like, oh, he's still alive?
Well, this I thought was interesting because we've seen, like, in this episode, we saw, like, Bolivar, like, he just killed his urologist like that.
Right.
She was dead right away.
Right.
This guy was kept alive. So it seems inconsistent. I wonder if there's a reason for that.
I really want to know if there's a reason as to why the neighbor was still alive, because it just seems like...
I wonder if he was coming back as...
Maybe he was coming back as a vampire.
Yeah. That would make sense that he was like, but he's been mangled so badly that he can't quite make the change.
Right.
It'll be interesting. But of course, Setrakian cuts it short.
Right. He cuts him off. Yeah. I also like how Setrakian basically tells F that if he turns into a vampire, he'll have to kill him too. And he's like, okay, good to know.
Well, he's like, duly noted.
Yeah.
But he knows, like, F is in a place right now. He knows what's up, and he's like, we need to stop this.
Yep.
It'd probably be a good idea, whatever it takes, to stop this outbreak. And he's treating it like an outbreak.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, is he knows he has to do whatever he can.
Right.
And so he takes the video to the CDC.
Yes.
As soon as he can. But that, of course, goes nowhere.
No. I do like, though, that when he explains it, instead of oh my gosh, I'm blanking on my notes. When he explains it, he's basically explaining it as a disease instead of going through the whole vampire route, because he feels he'll be more credible that way.
Which totally makes sense. You don't go running in there, there are vampires out everywhere. CDC, I need your help. I know you fired me for like being a little nutso, but there's totally vampires. It's like, no, there's this worm disease that when it gets into you, it changes you like a metamorphosis, like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, except horrifying.
I do like that he didn't include the it's terrifying kind of aspect. But Everett basically is like, oh yeah, I'll listen to you, and then he leaves to call the authorities.
How does he see that video and not?
He's got to have some other bizarre motive, because you can't watch that video and then be like, oh, okay, doopy-doo.
I mean, I know they're trying to cover their asses, because like
Right.
if this is a big thing and they let it out, like that could be his like head on the chopping block.
Right.
But as he puts it, like if you stop this, you could be the hero.
Right.
How does that not connect up there?
I don't know. And it's so, I mean, that it makes me think, though, that means that he has someone else under his control, just like Jim was reporting to someone else.
Somebody's got some dirt on him that's much worse.
Right.
But Jim is like trying to do right.
Right.
He wants to fix what he did.
Exactly.
So he helps F escape. He's like, I can't help you like more than this right now, but he at least gets him out of the building.
Which is good. Although I did feel it was a little sketchy that he kept trying to take his phone from him. He was like, oh, just give me your phone. Just give me your phone. It'll be okay if you just give me your phone. And he's like, I can't do that. That's my only evidence.
I don't know what you're up to, Kent.
Yes.
I don't know that we can trust you yet.
Samwise being so secretive.
He's been a sneaky little hobbit.
He's being a sneaky little hobbit.
But he luckily F does not give up the phone. But you're right. I didn't even think about that. Like that wasn't in my mind. He was legitimately like, no, they can totally trace you by your phone. I guess if the network still worked.
Right.
But they could triangulate that. So he takes out the SIM card and he's like, now it's maybe just put it on airplane mode. That was my thought.
I don't know, these guys.
Or turn it off.
Right. And I'm like, it really does seem so sneaky that he's trying to get this phone, especially when F was so mad at him in the last episode that he punched him in the face. And it's like, yeah, he helped him get out of the building, but now he's trying to get his phone? I don't know. I don't know about that guy.
We don't trust you, Jim Kent.
Trust you.
But so now F's out there. He's like, I guess he's gonna go back to Abe probably.
Yeah, and that last shot was such a like. We were just like, that's the end. It was such a weak ending to such a very busy and like.
I think it was what Steven said last week, where he's like, every week it just builds and builds and builds. And you're like, is it over?
Right. You're like, what just happened?
It moves so quickly. Yes. It doesn't feel like an hour-long show, which is a great thing. Like that engaging that you're like, you blink and it's done.
But we've also ended on ones like the one where we know the Fog Girl is gonna attack her dad in the next episode. We ended on that one. But on this one, just to have him walking onto the street, I was like, I want that bam closing moment more than that, like, well, you know something's going to happen, but he's just walking.
We want more.
We want more.
We want more.
That's basically what it is.
And you know what we could use more of? Reviews. Seamless transition.
Yes.
Guys, we say it every week. We have the best fans here at AfterBuzz TV. Our listeners are fantastic. You're fantastic. That's right. I'm talking to you. You listening to this in your car. Or
watching it on YouTube.
Yeah, or watching it on YouTube or any other place. But I want to freak out that person listening into the car. I should have gone with like a really specific. You in the Volkswagen from 1994. we love you.
You in the gym on the 3rd treadmill down.
There are 2 people freaking out right now. But seriously, thank you so much for listening. It really does help the network. But how you can help us more, in that like roundabout little way of me getting there, is by going onto iTunes or YouTube and rating us, slapping us with a 5-star review on iTunes, hitting us with a thumbs up on YouTube. Get us into conversations with us. We love talking about the show. Other fans want to talk to you guys about the show. Everybody can have fun. And if you leave us a review on iTunes, you get a shout out.
True.
And so I'm looking at our reviews. We have 41 reviews, and the original challenge was 50 reviews by episode 6.
Yes.
That's only 9 to go, you guys. That is fantastic.
Let's do it, guys.
When Matt first issued that, I was like, Matt, you are crazy.
Well, you know what you should do? You should show the show or make your friend listen to the show and our show and the strain, and then have them review it.
Yeah, share it with your buddies.
Yeah.
And if you haven't reviewed it, you can get a shout out on the show.
It's true.
So I want to shout out to Big Shane 84. Who says, again, 2 exclamation points, 5 stars. I love AfterBuzz, and the strain is really picking up steam. This is one of my favorite crews on AfterBuzz. They have fun while probing all the quirky ideas that many of us have, too. Keep it up, AfterBuzz. And
I feel like we're less quirky ideas now that Steve is not here today.
well, Steven has, like, he's the king of, like, wild theories, which, like...
Steve is like, what if F is secretly Batman, and he really has this thing in his basement, and he's building up this thing.
I'll have some wild theories later on. I've got my own things cooking up there. But I also want to thank Dizzle003. Great podcast to go with a great show. Says, I only know a handful of people who watch The Strain. This podcast helps me know that it's not just me and my wife on this show. Team Master.
Awesome.
Watch out for this guy. He's on Team Master. Careful of Dizzle 003. We're watching you.
We're watching
Dizzle.
you in your Volkswagen or on the treadmill at the gym. That makes us seem creepy, too.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I should have said that.
Well, there's a lot of creepiness in this episode.
There is.
I mean, Bolivar, because we opened on him and he's like, what is going on?
I love Bolivar as a character. I think it's so, I mean, it just fits right in that he's a character that, as a performer, was already kind of like a vampire-like guy.
Yeah.
With the way his looks were.
It's a great, because people feel like he's just getting into the character.
Right.
Like when the guy shows up, he's just like, oh, it's that guy.
Right.
He doesn't think, no, it's No Gonads Gabe the vampire.
With blood dripping down his face.
But he just figures, no, he probably bit a head off a bat or something.
Right. I also noticed, though, now that, not that we haven't gotten enough views of his townhome, but I was thinking, there are all these candles in this townhome, and with all the scuffles that have gone on in here, I'm surprised they haven't burned the place down.
Also, who's lighting them?
Right? It's his manager. It's her job to go around like the candles every day.
But if she yeah, I mean, but even after she leaves and is gone for a while, and the cleanup guy comes, like the candles are all still lit. You'd think a few of them would have burned out by then.
Bolivar is obsessed with candles.
I'm just saying, he's made a big, he's not all the way there. Like I guess there's enough human left that he goes around relighting all these candles or putting new ones into place. But no, he's actually very gone. Because his urologist shows up because he was before his penis actually fell off.
Yeah, it fell in the toilet. And
they called a urologist to come. He just flushed it away.
That still is one of my favorite scenes. I laugh so hard because he's just like, he's so far gone that he was like, meh.
He just like is indifferent. He's just like, whoop. Oh, so Dr. Evanston, this is adorable little doctor,
poor woman,
so innocent looking, walks in. She's like, and his manager is just like, I don't have to say this, but be discreet. Mm-hmm. He's got a show coming up. We need to get him. And it's like, for more reminders, like this eclipse show. There's a lot of hints about the eclipse.
Yes.
Like they kept mentioning the eclipse, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. But there's something up.
It's even in the logo.
Right? Something dark is coming.
Yes.
Like the moon in front of the sun. But she, of course, goes up and is dead.
Yes.
Instantly.
Yes.
Like, no waiting or hesitation. No, like, she's checking him out.
He's hungry.
He's just like, nope, mine.
That
was so creepy.
Yeah, it was
like,
creepy.
It was almost like if you blinked, you missed it, but he did. He was like, it's like a little kid, mine.
Yeah, and he drags her back.
As if his manager's going to take it from him.
And she was smart, too, because, like, I don't know. I feel like some people might have stayed and, like, been like, oh, well, maybe I should investigate this more or help him out. And she was like, hell no. I am running as far away as I can.
I mean, I took it as, like, she was a kid, like... No, she was like, oh no, this woman is dying and calling for help. Why shouldn't I stop this guy that I work with and he's clearly lost it? No, she just runs away, gets on the phone, and calls up. I don't know who, like, we were talking about this before the show. Who did she call? Because I don't think she called the Jack Noon guy, like the cleanup guy. Who was like straight out of Pulp Fiction. He's just like, yeah, this is what I do. I don't think she called him.
She must have called whoever is like the head honcho of the cleanup guys, and he just sends his cleanup guys out.
Well, because she didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I think she must have called like whoever runs his record label or runs her company that manages him.
Because it also seemed like I think if she called like an actual like person connected to that, she wouldn't be like, oh, you can do that? So it seems to me like she called someone maybe she knew, and then they were like, well, this is what we can do. And she's like, oh, you can
Somebody
do that?
who's been like, who's like, had a lot of rock stars with dead hookers or something, which is how this guy, Jacque, is treating it when he shows up. He's like, oh, yeah, whatever. Deal with this stuff all the time. Blood, spray it down with ammonia. Just like, kill it.
He's like, I've seen worse.
Yeah. And then Bolivar comes out and he's got a gun. He's like, oh, you scared me. He should scare you.
Yes.
Run.
Yes.
Run,
Run
Jack
from
Noon.
the man whose face is bleeding. Run from that man.
And he shoots him, and then we get more of like the
white blood that's
the white
coming out.
ziz stuff.
And what I thought was interesting is we were talking in the last episode about vampire lore and what vampire lore is going to apply, which like vampire elements of vampire lore are going to apply. So he reaches out and he feels a pulse, and he's like, oh, I'm not going to get my money now. So we know that they all feel dead even after, because they felt dead on the plane, but even after they've reanimated and are walking around, they still feel dead.
Yeah, well, I guess they're not cold, because I feel like he would have noted that.
Yes.
But they don't have a heartbeat.
Yes.
There's no need for blood to circulate, because there's no more blood. It's just fluid, I guess, just keeping them moving. Or keeping them from drying out, I guess. Like, so they don't have to moisturize. They have a little white zizzy stuff to take care of it for them. But we did get a bit more of this. Well, of course, before we get off of it, but of course that guy's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. And in one of the what I thought was grossest like tongue shootout situations, because you can actually like I felt like you would actually like see it coming out of his tongue, out of his mouth, versus in some of the ones before where it's looked kind of like a little bit more obscure and vampiric.
It may have been the closest we've really seen and hung on, even like though we stood on the one in 1944 a little longer. It was really close, and it's like where you could see it like latch into his veins. Yeah, and it was just like, oh, you could see like where it's like getting in and like pulling the blood from, and this guy's just like, well, he's dead. Yeah, but he wasn't a good guy anyway, so whatever. But yeah, we get a little bit more of the lore in this, because like, especially just from Setrakian, we get obviously the kill it with silver thing we knew, but the mirror. We got the mirror, which is that was an interesting twist on it. It's not that they don't have a reflection. It's that it makes the mirror vibrate if it's silver. So regular mirrors don't do anything. Right. A mirror that has silver in it will vibrate. That's fascinating, and I'm looking forward to getting a little bit, because everything they've explained so much through biology and through science, that's the one thing that they haven't, because like an allergy to silver, people are legitimately allergic to silver. I want to see what happens with the mirror. Like the reflection has some kind of other like worldly capacity that causes vibrations.
Right.
Maybe it's that somehow they affect the light around them. Who knows?
Or the sound waves or something. I
Could
don't know.
be. There's it could be that. I mean, maybe it's just that because there's silver in it, like the light that silver gives off causes light waves to maybe bend a little bit.
Yeah.
And that causes the reflection to vibrate. I like that theory. And I'm sticking to it. We have solved the mystery.
Or if you guys have theories, tweet at us or comment about
please,
them. I'm
tweet
really interested in that one.
Yeah.
That was a fascinating twist on it. Because they have...
it's different.
Yeah, it's different.
But so we also get, in addition to Gabe, the other survivor, Joan, the lawyer mom. We meet her kids.
They're so cute. They're trying to help her, and we're like, don't eat your children.
Yeah, they're feeding you breakfast. Eat the breakfast, not the children. And she's like stroking their neck, like, ooh.
I know.
And we're like, no.
And she can't drink tea because it doesn't taste like blood. And she's like, blah, tea.
The vampires don't get anything. They don't get tea. They can't eat toast. They don't get to have penises.
It actually seems, I like this too because in most vampire lore that I've watched, it seems like you would want to be a vampire. You're like, I get to live forever. I get to be super sexy and cool. And like, yeah, I have to eat people, but whatever. Like, that's the trade-off.
If you can get over that moral dilemma of killing people to survive.
But here, you really look at the vampires or the Strigoi, the disease people, and you're like, yeah, no, don't want to be that.
No, because especially they lose everything about themselves.
Yeah. And I'm wondering how it happens for women. Like, since the male penis fell off, like, what happens to the women?
It just seals up. Like it heals like a wound.
I am very curious. Can you explain that? Guillermo del Toro, explain that.
Guillermo, we're calling you out. We need you to come on the show and explain to us what happens to women. It is the equivalent of the penis falling in the toilet.
Yes.
Anyway, but so her nanny, I think it was Neva.
Yeah.
She's very astute.
Awesome nanny.
Yeah, that is a nanny I would hire for any situation because she sees she's. Joan's like, oh, there's something in my eye, it hurts, and obviously her eyes are bloodshot.
Right.
But there's nothing in there, and then she does the sideways blink, and Neva's like, oh, she's
packing, and then I was really pleased because I'm like, oh, the nanny's just hightailing it, and then the poor children are gonna be stuck there. But no, she's a good-hearted nanny, and she's like, no, I'm taking the kids with me.
Oh, no, I think she was packing the kids' clothes. She's like, I'm gonna pack the kids' clothes up, and we're gonna get the F out of here.
I appreciated that too because it was the second instance in which someone was like explaining to us that these children are not going to be harmed, or, well, they're trying to not make them be harmed, and then I assume they're not now that they've successfully made it out of the house.
Yeah. So they make it out. So
after she like creepy sniffs them, and I'm like, stop sniffing them.
Yeah, so creepy. But they're safe for another day.
Right.
And we'll see. I expect Joan won't be much longer before she's fully switched over.
Right.
I wonder if they'll be more like conscious as the 4 survivors. Setrakian basically explains it away like it's not a big deal. Like he compares it to the flu, where some people just get the sniffles when they get the flu, and some people are like just die from it. Like it's just the same disease, even the same symptoms, just much worse in some people than others.
But I thought he also explained it as like an element of diversion. So if you have 4 survivors, you're focusing on the 4 survivors, so that when you send those people to the morgue, you're not paying too much attention.
Well, that's their they bent the media to do that. So I think it was that's what happened, and they used that as a tactic to so nobody was looking for the 200 bodies.
Right.
Nobody cared because they were still talking. All they were talking about was the 4 survivors.
Right.
Don't worry about those 200 dead people and where they are. But you know who is worried about those 200 dead people is Vasily.
Yes.
Because because
he met them in the sewer.
Yeah. But Vasily's like the greatest person. Like, he's so much fun. Like, he just wanders into the office. He's like leaning on the desk of his like secretary. She's like, you know, you really pissed off that rich guy. He's like, yeah, you know, I get
She's
it.
such a terrible Goober fangirl. I want her to go away.
She loves him
so obnoxious.
so much. It's so cute. And he has to know.
Of course he knows. He's milking it for every minute it's worth.
He enjoys it. Just take her out for coffee, Vasily. Buy her a drink.
Yes.
She just wants some loving from you and your like awesome Russianness.
Your awesome beard.
But he wants to find where the rats are because he's talking about like they're all leaving, and she says she saw 10 of them on the platform in New York, and like you could see a lot of rats on the subway in New York City. Like there's always the ones you look down the tracks and they're scurrying around, but you don't usually see them on the platforms.
And she said they got up and left out.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were coming down, and Vasily said they have enough food down there.
There's a bigger predator.
Yes.
That's what's chasing them out. And so he goes down to investigate. What pest could be doing this? Oh, it's vampires. Run, Vasily.
That was another like great realization moment where he was just like, oh crap.
But yeah, I mean, he hightailed it out of there. And so he also lives to fight another day.
So I feel like because we also have Nora run into the vampires who've come into her mom's health center, old care.
Yeah, one of them got into this hospital, nursing home, where her mother has, I guess, Alzheimer's or similar disease. She has dementia. And Nora's just like trying to take care of mom. And then she's confronted with a vampire. Like, stop running from your problems, i.e. everybody's problems. Those people are dead now because you didn't listen to Eph and Abraham.
And so now she runs out with her mom, and I feel like our heroes are now kind of all on the run. And it's just a matter of where we find them next, because they've all at this point confronted the vampires.
I feel like Eph and
Strigoi.
Yeah. So we've covered. Why don't we move into predictions?
Yeah.
And now your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Because I'm seeing Nora. Like, she's going to take her around. She's going to go straight home. Eph has no phone anymore. So I think because he's still worried about her because he hasn't heard from her. He's going to go to her home. So they're going to get back together. And then they're going to go back and get Abe.
And then they're going to make out. And then they're going
Well, maybe they'll have to fight off some more vampires. Because I think now, with like everything we saw in that like little preview, I think it's about to hit the fan.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
Like, they're coming out of the sewers. It's gonna be on the news soon.
Yes. And I feel like Setrakian is going to try and assemble a group somehow, because he mentioned when he was making his eggs that he was like, we'll just knock on people's doors and recruit them. So I feel like that might be his next move to try and get some sort of group together.
Gus.
I'm just picturing this. Gus. Gus is one of my favorite characters.
Dream exterminator team of like Eph, Abe, Gus, and Vasily, and they're just like each have some. F's got his nail gun, Setrakian's got his sword, Vasily's got like a silver bag or something that he can like.
Silver bag.
That would be effective. You just like hang it over their heads, and it just like dissolves their face in the bag. And I don't know, Gus probably just has a gun. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy to have a subtle weapon.
And if we're sexist, then Nora has the silver mirror.
Nora, I don't even trust her to actually join the gang yet. She ran from it last time.
Well, I feel like the scene here is not a scene in the books, and I feel like the reason that they put it in there is to give Nora that definitive proof she needed that this is real dangerous. And it got very real for her because it was her mom right there. And when it turned out to be less of protecting herself, more protecting her mom, I think it made things very real for her.
No, I think you're right, actually, now that you say that. She probably will now at least she'll realize that, like, because if she hadn't been there, her mom's gone.
Right.
Because nobody's taking that thing down.
Yeah.
That nursing home's gone. That nursing home is all vampires now.
It is all vampires now.
They're very weak and feeble vampires, but they are vampires.
They're vampires with walkers shaking their canes at people.
I would watch that show.
I would watch that show.
But we're talking about this show. So as we wrap out, Jackie, where can people find you if they want to keep up with you this week?
At 123Jackie_B on Twitter, at 123JackieB, all one word on Instagram.
Great, and you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson, ThatZachWilson, and also here at AfterBuzz on The Leftovers and MasterChef. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.